So happy Independence Week. I would say we in the United States have two Independence Days, that of July 4th, 1776, and that of June 19th, 1865. But I do want to acknowledge that I don't think you can have the Declaration of Juneteenth without July 4th. You know, the formation of the Declaration of Independence was long coming and took incredible insights by our founding fathers. By the time the Declaration of Independence was adopted in June, basically in July 1776, the 13 colonies and Great Britain had been at war for almost a year. Relations had been deteriorating for 13 years. And then on June 11th, 1776, the Continental Congress appointed the Committee of Five to draft a declaration. They were John Adams of Massachusetts, Ben Franklin of Pennsylvania, Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, Robert Livingston of New York, and Roger Sherman of Connecticut. Quite a diverse group. The committee took no minutes, so there's a lot of uncertainty that what really happened, but we know that they created a general outline, and then they recruited Jefferson to write it. You know, Jefferson was only 33 years old at this time in his life, and he would write the first draft. Took him about 2 weeks, and he completed it, took it to the Committee of Five, and they did a few minor corrections, but then drafted up the final resolution to go to the Continental Congress. The Congress got that on June 28, 1776, and the assembled Congress made a few changes of wording and took a lot of the text out, about a quarter of it, and then published the final Declaration of Independence that was approved on July 4, 1776, and it went to the printer. It read in Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration ends with that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states have the right to do. Now, we all know that the Declaration was more about the what, and it wasn't for everybody that was living in the colonies. But it was the writing of the Constitution in 1787 that really got into the how and really made up our government as it is today. Just a few years after the Revolutionary War, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington got together, and they were fearing that the colonies in the United States was going to go into collapse. The first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, gave the Confederation Congress the power to make rules and request funds, but really had no enforcement ability They couldn't regulate commerce. They couldn't print money. We all know that Hamilton was all about the money. The states' disputes over territory, war pensions, taxation, and trade threatened to tear the young country apart. Alexander Hamilton helped convince Congress to organize a grand convention of state delegates to work on revising the Articles of Confederation. James Madison, our good Virginian, with significant input from Jefferson, who was in France as the ambassador, was instrumental in writing the Constitution. Get to that. There we go. Oop. As you can remember, it reads, "We, the people of the United States, in order to make a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Today, I would like to focus on the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights. It's all about our freedom of speech, but also identifies the concept of the separation of church and state. This term refers to the creation of a secular government, no affiliation with any specific religion. The exact phrase separation of church and state was derived from the wall of separation of church and state that was coined by Thomas Jefferson. And this concept was promoted by Enlightenment philosophers such as John Locke. Jefferson later wrote to the Baptists that the Bill of Rights of the United States prevents the establishment of a national church. And in doing so, they, the Baptists, did not have to fear of government interference in their right for expressions of religion. The Bill of Rights, adopted by all the states in 1791 as the 10 Amendments to the Constitution of the United States, was one of the earliest forms of political expressions of religious freedom. Jefferson wrote later, "Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. I contemplate with the sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation of church and state." So I'm asking you to remember that historical part a little bit and let me shift a few gears a little bit. As many of you know, I'm a retired naval officer, flying Navy aircraft for about 28 years. And those were on some of the most advanced ships in the world. I completed 10 major deployments over my career, and these deployments permitted me to visit many countries. That included England, France, I counted these up, England, France, Spain, Greece, Turkey, Malta, Egypt, Israel, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Kuwait, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Panama. I also lived in Japan for about a year and a half. Sandra, wish it was longer. I have certainly met and worked with individuals all over the world, making friendships and military connections. From my time all over the world and doing personal travel as well, I have discovered one thing, that we as Americans can travel almost anywhere in the world. The American passport has vast power in the ability to roam the far reaches of the globe and to see many peoples and cultures. Not so for many other peoples throughout the world. Getting a passport for them is difficult to almost impossible. It depends on their ranking or class as a citizen, and many times it is just cost prohibitive. And even if you have a passport by a foreign country, visa requirements are extensive for entering the United States and many other countries. One thing comes clear in seeing the people and experiencing their culture around the world, that our culture, the United States way of the people, is full of independent thought and innovative ideas. It is why so many countries look to send their young people to our schools and universities. They want what we have. What is that? And how did it get developed? As I have seen in many countries, it's more about the oppression of free thought, the focus on controlling the population, forcing conformity, and not permitting a type of creative process. I think much of American independence comes from our very beginnings as a nation. Our ways that expanded the 13 colonies. Those original authors and signatories of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Thank you, Jefferson and Madison and many more, for being free thinkers and visionaries for the beginnings of our country. But it was not just about freedom of thought, ultimately freedom of speech and freedom of religious views and our connections with God, the freedom of our religion. Now, as many of you know, Jefferson made his own Bible, and I believe he was at the forefront of what we may consider New Thought. All that New Thought was originating in the United States. Go figure. This continued through the years as religious freedom permitted open discussion and writings on spiritual concepts. It opened the door for people like Phineas P. Quimby, thought to be the founder of the religious New Thought, Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science movement, and Ralph Waldo Emerson, an American philosopher and poet. And in time, it included our Unity founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, and their work on affirmative prayer. So now I'm back to us, free, independent thinkers in this sanctuary this morning. We have a rich heritage in our nation and in our culture. Freedom and independence is ingrained in us. We have been able to grow up and question those long-held assumptions of God and religion. And we are able to have our one-on-one connection with God and not held to presumptive approach of a one-size-fits-all in the world of traditional religions. For me, I am extremely grateful for the freedom to discover my spiritual self, the ability to come to this place at Unity Renaissance and keep finding my truth, which grounds me to this community and the world. From my time at Unity, I know that God is good all the time, and that my devil is only on how much I want to hold on to my ego self. I can see Jesus as a guide and way shower, not as a savior delivering me from sin, but a way of living that supports my own divinity. God knows I sin a lot, but now I know I can just see that as missing the mark, and it's okay. I can keep working on myself to hit that bullseye and find my own perfection. These and many more Unity principles enables me to have a closer relationship with all the humanity around me and my God. Seeing the way my God consciousness provides possibilities and prosperity daily overcomes my old ideals. So now I would say it's up to us to make that devoted effort to take our spiritual freedom and make that connection with God every moment of every day. To look and question our old beliefs and assumptions. We cannot get bogged down in that which is ego-focused and that of the world consensus, but in our own consciousness. I love the motto at Satchidananda Ashram in Yogaville, paths are many, truth is one. We are all afforded a pathway to truth, to God. In this country of freedom, we can search out this truth without reprisals or impacts. I am blessed to be in a spiritual book group that meets about every week. It allows me to expand my own ideas about God and gets me to look at books that I might not normally read. Think about picking up some inspiring reading this summer for you. A couple of our latest reads were Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox and Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. Both authors are unity giants and very insightful. Most recently, our very own Christopher Naughton has released his book, America's Next Great Awakening, Stories from Our Paths, Our Myths, and Our Optimal Futures, charting the way to resolve our current crises. Kind of right up the alley for today's talk and our thoughts about independence. And something I look forward to reading here in the very near future. Now, this week is a time of celebration for our American independence. And we can not only celebrate the American democracy that came from those mighty individuals in Philadelphia in the summer of 1776, but also our own spiritual independence and freedom. Finding ourselves spiritually, creating harmony and peace within self, creates a better place for us to work in the world all around us. Jesus said, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." I'm working on finding my spiritual self, my truth. I see it as my lifelong journey. My realization of my truth is making me a better person on this earth and allowing me to feel the freedom that is mine anywhere and at any time. I hope you are able to be in the same place, in gratitude and in inquiry. Blessings to you all this week of independence and freedom.
Thank you for your service at Rosequist.
Thank you so much. Now let's take a little time for some meditation. Please ground yourself in your chair and take some deep breaths. Closing your eyes and concentrating on the omnipresent world of God. See how every breath you take is another step in your one-on-one connection with God. Feel your freedom in this moment. Sense your truth. See how your God-focused world is filled with your own prosperity and upliftment. Take time in the silence to hold this vision. In the silence.
to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your